I moderated a session at the Racers Forum in Charlotte on Tuesday with 3 team executives who have backing from private equity. Each stressed how positive the partnership has been, how much value they get out of the relationship, and their belief that private equity's investment in sports teams remains a long-term play for these investors. A very interesting and enlightening conversation. And this is your morning Buzzcast for Wednesday, October 1st. Good morning. I'm Abe Madkour. Playoff baseball, not much like it. I'll be tired for the next month. I know that. But let's start the Buzzcast with news around the WNBA. And it wasn't a great day for the league and its leadership ranks. The day should have been a positive one on Tuesday. Earlier in the day came news of a new 11-year deal with Versant to broadcast games on USA Network and have a high-profile Wednesday night doubleheader. You also had the Aces getting into the WNBA Finals after beating the Fever. But the sports world was all talking about Napheesa Collier's verbal critique of the W and specifically Commissioner Cathy Engelbert, saying the WNBA had the worst leadership in the world. She also relayed private conversations with Engelbert. I'm not a big fan of private conversations being shared publicly, but that's what Collier did. And these weren't a positive reflection for Engelbert, talking about the state of the W and the revenue around the league. In addition, Collier said she hasn't had contact with the commissioner all year and seemed very discouraged by the overall leadership of the league. She has a strong voice, and this will certainly resonate. Engelbert said in a statement she was, quote, disheartened by how her conversations were characterized, and later SBJ's Tom Friend reported that well before these comments yesterday, multiple sources had shared that Cathy Engelbert will likely exit as commissioner sometime after the current CBA negotiations due to pressure inside NBA and WNBA circles. Engelbert has been at the league for 6 years. She came from Deloitte, and sources say her presumed departure is relationship-driven, tied to the way that she has dealt with colleagues and players. Now, this comes as the WNBA has seen tremendous growth. These jobs are not easy, but Tuesday's comments from an influential player will not help Engelbert's already unstable public standing. Now, while a WNBA spokesperson said comments of her departure were, quote, categorically false, all this does add another layer to the WNBA labor negotiations that are ongoing. It puts the W in a very uncomfortable spotlight heading into its finals. Let's stay with women's sports because very big news for women's basketball with the decision to move the 2028 Women's Final Four from Gainbridge Fieldhouse to Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. That, of course, increases capacity, really opens up approximately 13,000 additional seats for the event. The Women's Final Four continues to sell out. Public demand has continued to increase, so this seems like the smart move. But we should note, this marks the first time the Women's Final Four will be played in a football stadium since 2005. So now we have the layout for the next few years. Next year's Women's Final Four, Phoenix, 27, Columbus, 28, Indianapolis. Looking past 28, the 29 final is set for the Alamo Dome in San Antonio, large venue there, 2030 at the Moda Center in Portland, 31 in Dallas at American Airlines Center. So, of course, Portland, they won't be able to likely go to a larger venue, but who knows? Time will tell. Potentially in Dallas, they could relocate to AT&T Stadium. Regardless, moving 2028 to Lucas Oil Stadium shows the appeal and the demand for the Women's Final Four. I mentioned playoff baseball at the start of the Buzzcast. We have talked a lot about upcoming MLB labor issues. One conversation, of course, is around a salary cap. And boy, do I hear a lot about that from both management and labor. It's seen as one of the biggest issues facing MLB and the union when negotiations begin on a new CBA. But Commissioner Rob Manfred said earlier this week a salary floor may be more important than a cap. And that is a totally overlooked issue, and I agree with it. He's right. To me, getting teams to a minimum salary level will be a challenge. There are a number of baseball teams that wouldn't hit the likely threshold of a minimum payroll. And if they're asked to do that, they will say, okay, you want us to have a minimum payroll of $100 million? Well, guess what? We need more revenue sharing to make that work. Do you think the larger markets will like that answer? Not at all. But a salary floor is very important, and some teams today are not spending as much as they need to for competitive balance. So my advice as you look to labor negotiations, don't always just look at a salary cap, but a salary floor is just as, if not more, important. Shifting to motorsports, if you talk to many close to NASCAR, they talk about staying close to the sport's roots, feeling the sport has lost its way at times, trying to be too mainstream and trying to identify with too many different fan segments. The sports leaders have implied publicly that they will look to play up its roots while identifying with its core fan base, all while trying to reach new audiences. My colleague Adam Stern noted that NASCAR has developed a marketing campaign that has the tagline, "Hell yeah." And that will be part of a branding effort for next season, the 2026 season. I believe we've noted on the Buzzcast that NASCAR has retained an LA-based ad agency called 72 and Sunny to develop a new effort, and they're going to lean in to their Americana roots. At meetings in New York last week, NASCAR shared a new spot around the Hell Yeah campaign, one that sources said shows the sport's most historic drivers. So it's not immediately clear when this new spot will become public, maybe before Daytona. Remember, NASCAR is heading into its final 5 races of this season, but preparing a new branding campaign for 2026 that will tie back to NASCAR's roots. Moving on, I found the story in Virginia Tech to be one of the most interesting stories this week in college sports, and it shows the lengths that schools are going to invest to be successful in sports. Maybe because there are a lot of Virginia Tech Hokies in Charlotte where I live, maybe because I hear about their struggling football team pretty frequently. But do not overlook how the Virginia Tech Board approved nearly $230 million in new athletic spending over the next 4 years. It will start with this coming year. So where will that money come from? Well, some of it is from institutional reserves, meaning the university will fund athletics. Some comes from increased student fees. There's also fundraising and philanthropy. So with this decision, this puts Virginia Tech among the top of ACC schools in funding for athletics. So a very big revenue jump. And it comes as the school is looking for a new football coach. And the school's president said this decision, quote, unlocks the door to future success, end quote. What he means? This funding will allow them to pay coaches more. It will broaden the pool of candidates they can attract. It allow them to hire general managers and other people in the athletic department, and they will reorganize their staff so that it mirrors more professional sports organizations. The bottom line here, if sports is successful, Virginia Tech believes it will be more successful. A totally marketing-driven approach, as they feel they need to compete in athletics to be fully relevant in the ACC. So this is a big, big move. And of course, the school said it will appoint an investment oversight committee to make sure that these funds, hundreds of millions of dollars, are spent the appropriate way, but I expect more schools to do just what Virginia Tech is doing. And finally, we'll end the Buzzcast with a name that you should continue to have on your radar at Major League Soccer. Charles Altchek. He was named Executive Vice President of Club Performance and League Growth. So this move will see the two-time SBJ 40 under 40 honoree focus on helping teams and long-term strategy. It's a big job. He was head of MLS Next Pro. That is the secondary league that is a feeder system for MLS. Now, Senior Vice President Ali Curtis, a longtime soccer executive, will take that role and become president of MLS Next Pro and Sporting Development. So what is the new role for Charles Altchek? He will help teams with ticket sales and sponsorship. He'll play a major role overseeing team sales and potential markets for future expansion. It is a big role for the 40-year-old as he will look at strategies to build up new fans and help teams. And there's always a dynamic tension between teams and the league office. So this is a critical role. He has been at the league since 2014. Another factor about Charles Altchek, he was a captain of the Harvard soccer team when he played there. So he's close to the sport, played the sport, and continues to take a large role in the leadership at Major League Soccer. So the 4 takeaways from today's Buzzcast. Number 1, when it comes to labor talks, don't focus always on a salary cap. A salary floor or a minimum level of spending could be more important. Number 2, as the attention, revenue, and exposure of women's sports continues to increase, we see advancements like putting the 28 women's Final Four in a football stadium to maximize capacity and interest. But you also see the pressures of growth and tensions around a league growing like the WNBA. Number 3, expect NASCAR in this current environment to lean into rural Americana roots as a way to appeal to its hardcore, longtime fans and also as a path to find new fans. And finally, number 4, you will see more and more universities do what Virginia Tech is doing. Fund millions of dollars from the institution to athletics to make this school more appealing and more successful when it comes to sports. And so that is your morning Buzzcast for Wednesday, October 1st. Yes, the 1st of October. I'm Abe Madkour. Thanks for listening. Stay healthy. Be good to each other. I'll speak to you tomorrow.